visit with General McMahon at Robbins just last week, and obviously this is one of the issues we continue to work. But tell me what your thoughts are, where we're going here, how we're going to improve this availability issue.
Thank you, Senator, and General McMahon is doing a terrific job.
Yes.
I would start by telling you that our Chief of Staff, General Schwartz, has had an eyeball-to-eyeball conversation with the Director of DLA, so there is no ambiguity in where he stands and what we need as an Air Force. Secondly, the Air Force Materiel Commander has met twice in the last year with the DLA Director to not only lay out what our needs and requirements are, but to track the progress. I meet with the DLA Director bi-monthly, and members of his staff and mine get together even more often than that. It's getting the right requirement, it's getting the right procurement, it's getting the right delivery, and continuing the proper engagement and holding them accountable. Senator, I would tell you that DLA it has a long record, almost 50 years of excellence in wholesale supply. As a result of BRAC 2005, they are now in the retail supply business. It's different, and they are adjusting to it, and we are holding them accountable. It's not all bleak. The C5, for example, which you are very familiar with, enjoys the best support it's had in years. It has the highest mission-capable rate that it's had in 7 years. It has the highest aircraft availability rate it's had in 6 years, and it has the lowest capable for supply, not mission capable for supply parts, the lowest rate in 20 years. So there are some good things that are happening, but as DLA gets into the retail supply, we absolutely have to have what we have signed them up to do.
Well, the delays in delivery are concerning to all of us, and it's happening at all three of our ALCs, and it looks like this is the big issue. And of course, we made the change a couple of years ago to try to improve efficiency and save money, and all that's well and good, but if it's not going to work, then we've got to figure out what direction we need to go in. But I appreciate your commitment to it and General Schwartz's commitment to making sure we get this issue solved. General Panner, you note in your written statement that the Marine Corps equipment, both at home and abroad, has been heavily taxed in a nearly decade of constant combat operations. You also note that the requirement to fully resource deployed forces has resulted in redistribution of assets from non-deployed forces and strategic programs to meet these requirements. None of this is surprising, obviously, given the tempo of the last decade. The Marines have done a tremendous job, both with your combat units and your reset effort. And your contributions have been critical to our success. However, the situation you lay out with respect to availability of equipment and supply rating of units at home is somewhat troubling. Specifically regarding reset, as you just alluded to a minute ago, you note that reset requirements increased as a direct result of the shift of equipment from Iraq to support the surge forces in Afghanistan. This is also understandable. Regarding how you will address your reset shortfall, you mentioned several actions, including, and I quote, aggressively repairing equipment at our depots and distributing to fill shortfalls for established priorities. What do you mean by that last phrase of distributing to fill shortfalls? And if that means outsourcing work, where's it going to go?
Well, sir, relating to fulfilling established shortfalls, by direction of our Commandant, we have a priority list that we fill, and it's a listing of units that are racked and stacked according to what the priority of the needs are. For example, anything forward in Afghanistan, of course, they're top-tier folks. They get what they need. Their readiness ratings hover 92, 93%, as you know. Next thing that would come up in the priority stacking or rating would be units that are preparing to deploy to theater. We attempt to ensure that those units, as mentioned earlier, don't see this equipment for the first time as they train to go forward. So those readiness rating of the units that are on deck ready to deploy is fairly high. The outsourcing piece that you mentioned, it is we're not there on outsourcing, and right now, we're not leveraging outsourcing to fulfill the needs that we have. But is that the basis of your question, Senator, or did I miss the mark here?
Well, let me just continue on a little bit. So is it my understanding you're not looking at outsourcing now? And, because I interpreted
Yes,
your-
sir. The capacity at our depots right now, we can meet our requirement as we know it. Now, when the day comes, and I use the analogy, the pig and the snake, when we come out of Afghanistan, that is a consideration, and to leverage other services depots as well. And it may well be, if we have the resources to get this equipment reset as quickly as possible, we might have to consider outsourcing.
Mm-hmm. Well, if I understand what you're saying, you're not at that point now, and based upon the priorities that you just alluded to, both the depots are doing the work that needs to be done right now, and that appears to be the case for the immediate future.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Both depots are roughly on a shift and a half workload.
Okay. General Reno, I want to discuss one other issue with you. I mentioned the OSHA issues to Mr. Yonkers, but there again, it seems like OSHA may be holding our depots to arbitrary standards and to standards that really have no relevancy. We've got real issues with OSHA that General McMahon is working through, and looks like we're on track to get those resolved. But if we're not careful, this is going to absolutely hamstring our ability to carry out our mission. What's your perspective on OSHA's role, and how can we ensure that the depots are not subjected to arbitrary regulations that do not affect the safety and health of the workforce?
Senator, we absolutely care about the safety and welfare of our workforce. That is paramount, and we do not push back on that at all. There were 36 findings that OSHA gave us under General McMahon's leadership. 33 of those have already been responded to. Another will be responded to in June, the final 2 in October. So he has moved out smartly on those. As far as the grasp or the extent of OSHA's involvement in what we do compared to what they do with others, I would tell you that the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, Mr. Yonkers, is personally engaged and involved in this. This is something that we are involved in and we are pursuing. But we want to first make sure that our people are being taken care of. We don't push back on that at all, sir.
Yeah, and obviously that is a priority, and the Air Force has always done a good job with that. We've never had a significant issue with OSHA before, and that's why it's puzzling to me as to why we're encountering these somewhat major issues right now that frankly appear to be inhibitors in getting the job done, and not for the right reasons, because it's not safety and health of the employees that is the issue with these OSHA issues. So we'll look forward to continuing the dialogue with you and Mr. Yonkers with respect to that.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Chambliss. I talked about in the opening statement about this committee last year adding money